Hey, writers! Today is secondary research. So, this research is definitely, I think, going to be much easier and probably more fruitful than your primary research that you did yesterday. But it's good to know that there are two kinds of research. So, you'll probably get a little more information about your topic today, depending on what you decided to write about. Okay, so earlier in our study, we looked at Jim Murphy's book, The Great Fire. We learned that most of the information in his book came from secondary source research. Today, we're going to look more closely at his book and determine what some of his sources were. And we're also going to imagine how he gathered his materials, and we're also going to make plans to do our own research for our topics today. Let's begin by reading the introduction to the book. The fire that swept through the heart of Chicago began on Sunday night, October 8th, 1871. The Great Fire would burn for the rest of Sunday, all of Monday, and into the early hours of Tuesday, with little real opposition. During these 31 hours of terror, over 100,000 people were forced to flee the consuming flames. Many survivors wrote about their harrowing experiences in books, newspaper and magazine articles, or letters to friends and relatives. You will meet a number of survivors in this book, most of them just once or twice and only briefly. Okay, so that would be primary research. Things that he found that were written by people who went through the fire would be primary research. Let's keep reading. Several individuals have slightly longer accounts, including Catherine and Patrick O'Leary, in whose barn the fire began; James Hildreth, an ex-alderman who decided that the best way to save Chicago was by blowing up parts of it; and Julia Lemos, a widow who single-handedly saved her 5 small children and her elderly parents. Finally, you will be able to follow 4 characters in great detail. In order of the appearance, they are Joseph E. Chamberlain, a 20-year-old reporter for the Chicago Evening Post; Horace White, the editor-in-chief of the Chicago Tribune; Alexander Frere, who was visiting relatives at the time of the fire; and Claire Innes, a 12-year-old whose family had only recently moved in the city. Through the eyes of all these people, you will see the fire from many distinct vantage points, and you will feel a wide range of emotions as the hot breath of the fire draws nearer and nearer. All right, so I'm going to flip through the book a little bit. And here's a photo of where it all started. This was a photo of the original cottage where Catherine and Patrick O'Leary rented their part of their house, and they lived at the back part over here where the window is. And it says, "Note the wooden sidewalk." And then in parentheses, it says Chicago Historical Society. And so that's where he got that picture. So that makes that secondary research because he got that picture from someone else who was there at the time. So now he has secondary research. We have this image of the Chicago River, and this came from Harper's Weekly, which is a magazine, and it came from the October 21st, 1871 issue. A lot of these say author's collection, so he's collected illustrations from the time. Here's another one from the Chicago Historical Society, so he borrowed this one from them. So the last page I want to share this is his bibliography. So this is a text feature that tells what sources he used for his work. And I've shown you this page before. So we have Joseph Chamberlain's account of the fire that was written in a book. We have Alfred's quotes from the book. That was another book that was published in 1871. We have another book printed, another article that was printed in the Cincinnati newspaper, and so that was Horace White's recollection, and that came from a letter. Alexander Frere wrote about his experiences for the New York World magazine, and they appeared in that issue in October 15th. And then Claire, she was the 12-year-old. She wrote a letter to her cousin, and by chance, that letter had gotten saved through the years, so that even by 1896, that letter was still in existence, and people could read and hear her own words about the fire. So over here, he also used these books for his book. So he read all these books about the Chicago fire that other authors published, and then he integrated all that information and made his own book about the fire. All right, so how are you going to do that with your topic? Well, let's talk about that. So I can use a variety of sources. I can go back to my webcam page, and I can look at information about manatees from this page. So if I wanted to find out about population, that was one of my questions, like how many manatees are there? And has that number gone up since I was in 7th grade and I wrote my manatee book? I wish I still had that book. That could have been some good primary research if I still had that, if my mom had saved that. So I could look right here and it says there are about 5,733. So what I might want to do is see if I can find a graph or something that shows how their population is going up. So, and that just did this as a Google search. And so one of the things that you need to think about when you're doing a search are the keywords. I've got another activity that is going to be in a different assignment that will help you with those keywords from Common Sense Media. I opened Epic, so I can find a book in Epic. I definitely want to find one that's nonfiction, so I'm going to go here. And when I look at these books, I might want to think about some of my questions that I have, and so I might use indexes. So this one looks like a good one. You want to kind of look at that Lexile level, like if it's a 520, that might be a little easier. This 1230, that one might be a little bit harder. So the bigger the level number, the bigger the harder the book is. I also want to kind of just look at page numbers, like this one's 46 pages, so I might not have time to do that one today. But I might use the index and just read parts of that book. You can always go to the show more button. But I was also getting things about jumbo whales and mermaids and dolphins, so that may be all I want to look at. All right, I can look at NC Digital Kids. I use my lunch number when I sign in. So if I go to my account, I think I'm already signed in. You can click on search. And over here, I'd want to do the same thing. I'd want to click on nonfiction because I do see a few little fiction books. So I've got animal adaptations, and then I've got this National Geographic, which I think I saw in Epic too. So I could borrow those if I think they might be helpful. If I go to the Coddington webpage and you go to student resources, you have your NC Wise Owl. This is what Miss Seal showed library groups. So I'm going to click on that Britannia. And this would be a good password. I did not pay close enough to the lesson to know what the password is. I'll have to come back to that one, but don't forget I know in your Google Classroom for Media Center, she has all the information about how to do NC Wise Owl. So, really, my power just went off. I don't know if I'm still recording or not. So, I'm just going to keep going because I don't want to redo all that. We'll see how it goes. Um, so, anyway, I don't remember what the password is. Is it Connington? All right, so I went to Miss Seal's webpage in her Google Classroom and I looked it up. It's Wise Owl 19. Wise Owl 19. Let's see if that works. Yes. All right, so we want elementary resources. I probably should have saved that password. And we're going to do a search. Maybe. All right, so I typed in search and I typed in manatee. And so I can look at articles, images, videos. I have other searches that I could go to. So let's just view all results. All right, so I could do an image search. I could have where they live, just kind of a definition of them. And then I've got some articles where they were seen in Cuba. So one of my questions was how far north and south do they go? Because we've seen them at Wrightsville Beach every now and then, but they don't normally live here. So I was trying to think how far north do they go and why do they end up so far north away from Florida? There's also some manatees, the African manatee. So I could look at maybe some of the differences between African manatees and the American, North or South American manatees. So I can click up here and see these images, and I can see videos and more. Looks like I could also filter by my reading level, so I can make it easier or harder. There's Crystal River, that's where I went. So you got a dictionary, magazines. So this is a little bit better than just Googling something or using Wikipedia. I heard Miss Seals telling you in library this week that we want to have reliable sources. We want to have sources that are credible, that can't be changed like Wikipedia. Anybody can go in and change it. It's a public site. And so you're not always sure that that is the most reliable information. And so when we think about information that comes from places like Cobblestone Magazine here or National Geographic or a web page where I can kind of look at the source of this information on this web page and figure out, are these reliable people? I can look at their about us section and I can look at where they get their information and what are they scientists? Are they conservationists? Or are they just regular people just trying to talk about manatees? And then last, trying to see if the last thing I did was if you do need to do a search for your thing, Kittl is a good safe search engine. You can totally use Google, but I would caution you that Google is mainly written for adults, and so you may need some adult supervision with your keyword searches. So just be mindful that whatever you type in, that's going to have more of a wide range of audiences. So with Kittl, and type in my keyword. And sometimes you want to type in more than one keyword. So if I want to type manatee population, if that's part of my question, then that would help me answer that question more directly. Let's see how it changes. Okay, so I've got a National Geographic. I've got this article from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, so I know that's a government agency. That's going to be pretty credible. SeaWorld is all about, protecting ocean animals and aquatic mammals. So that might be some places to look. I might want to think about what do they eat. So I could change that to manatee diet. Let's see if it changes. Yep. So SeaWorld has a thing about manatees and what they eat. I've got some pictures about diet and habitat, but those are Amazonian, and so that's a little bit further south. That might not be what I want to do if I want to just focus on my Florida manatees. So I've got another one about the West Indian manatee, so that's a little bit further away. But I could do a compare and contrast about the three different types and how they're the same and how they're different. So I could start doing a keyword like different places that I see. All right, so then that kind of comes up. And then I would just click on these. That's the other thing. A lot of times when you do a Google search, you'll see a little preview, and you actually have to go into the article. And so then what I would do in my notebook is I'm going to write down my source. So if I'm reading National Geographic Kids, I'm going to put that in my notebook. And then I'll take some notes. So I might read the article about how big they are. And I'll have to read that they're gentle, no natural enemies. They eat water plants, so that would help me with my diet question. Oh, here's the thing about where they live. So I can see all the yellow coastline around South America, all the coastline around Mexico and Central America, and then definitely all the Caribbean islands. And it looks like all the way up, even a little past North Carolina. Like, I think this bumpier coast would be like Virginia, North Carolina, about right here. So in my notebook, I'm going to start writing down some notes, and I'm also going to write down where I got that note. So if it's from my Epic book, if I grab this one, oh, that Mish Goldish, he's like, I recognize his name. He writes lots of good animal books. And so what I would do is I would start reading the information and then writing things down in my notebook. But I also want to record where I got that information. So I want to be particularly mindful of like where I get the information as well as like what I'm writing down. So if I need to go back and look at it again, I'll know where to look. Another thing that you might want to do with your secondary research is think about some of these words that are in bold, because those are probably some words that I might want to also use in my text. So I might keep a little vocabulary section over here in my notebook. And then that way, as I'm reading, I can kind of make notes about words and their definitions that might be specifically related to my topic. All right, so if you have any questions, private comment, send me an email, join a Zoom at 1:15. Bring your notebooks to class with you so that when you're on your face-to-face day, we can chat about those notebooks face-to-face. Remember, Miss Seals is a good source of information. She can help us find resources for our topics. Your parents and I can help you. We'll have Miss Price if you're in that third block with me in Miss Abrams' class, so she can help us with our research. This is a good week. If you have a device that you can bring to class, you might want to think about bringing that device to class, especially if you have a school iPad, because they're already connected to the Wi-Fi. We just have such a limited number of devices at school, so it's important for you to think about when you're going to gather this information. Okay? All right. Let me know if you have questions. Good luck with your research. Also, take a photo of your notebook today and let me see kind of what you came up with today. But as the same as yesterday, you may not finish all your research today. You may still be collecting um, over the next couple days or through the weekend. And next week, we will start to do our drafting. So you will want to have a good amount of information about your topic ready to use for your draft next week. So good luck with that research. Let me know if you have questions or if you need help. I'm glad to be, I'm here for you. Okay? All right. Bye.